Hello everybody, Ben Woodruff here with another Falconry video. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about Cooper's hawks and the Coyote Principle. It's kind of an interesting topic, and I'm doing this kind of in the middle of the week instead of my regular weekly video because it's just some interesting thoughts that have come up based off of some input that you've given me based off of my last video. So first, really quick, the Coyote Principle itself. What is it? Well, we have three official canines in the United States, right? We have wolves, we have coyotes, and we have foxes. You know, that's biggest to smallest. Wolves are pack hunters. They're usually go working together to tackle large prey, big game animals like buffalo and elk, things like that. Usually, they can hunt smaller prey, but that's usually what they're going after. Foxes, at the very bottom, are usually going after very small prey, and they're living in the shadows, worrying about bigger predators, including coyotes and wolves going after them. Coyotes are in the middle. Coyotes are odd because coyotes diverged off from wolves, and as such, have the ability to punch up or punch down. So here's the Coyote Principle. In the presence of wolves, you got wolves above you, foxes below you, both canines, both cousins, and they're both filling this top and bottom role. Coyotes will diversify, and they'll be like, well, I'll get a big thing if the opportunity arises, but mainly I'm going to go after medium to small prey. But there's no waste in nature, and so if wolves are absent from the environment, coyotes will build into that niche, and they will begin to hunt and larger prey and take the role that the wolves took. Now, we've seen that start to happen and then end in Yellowstone National Park, where wolves were eliminated completely. There were no wolves there, and coyotes were like, ha, 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 all right, and they were like, do, 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 and they multiplied into much greater numbers, and were hunting much larger prey, like, we're the top canine, we rule Yellowstone. Then when wolves were reintroduced, then suddenly it was like, oh no, and there was a tumultuous time, and wolves were kicking their butts, and then now things are back to the old level, where you got wolves hunting the large prey, ruling the canine role, coyotes in the middle, you know, going after some larger prey, but usually medium to small prey, and foxes at the bottom going after the little stuff. Now, what does this have to do with falconry? What on earth does this have to do with Cooper's hawks? Well, I'm bringing this principle up because Cooper's hawks, well, okay, let me start over. The United States is kind of funny. We have three accipiters. That's very unusual. Most regions of the northern hemisphere will have two accipiters. They'll have an old world northern goshawk and a Eurasian sparrowhawk. It's not always true. The more you get into the tropical zones and cross over, the more you start to see more accipiters. But most regions, you got a big accipiter and a little accipiter, and that's a goshawk and a sparrowhawk. The United States is weird because we have northern goshawks, we have Cooper's hawks in the middle, and we have sharp-shinned hawks down on the bottom in size-wise. Now, sharp-shinned hawks diverged. They were the last to come to the New World, according to DNA studies, and they came from sparrowhawks. But Cooper's hawks came from goshawks. That's what our DNA study comes from, and they are incredibly closely related. They even interbreed in the wild with some frequency. Obviously, accipiters are skittish, so you don't always see them in the wild, but bird banders with some frequency will trap and be like, oh my goodness, this is a goshawk, Cooper's hawk hybrid. How strange that occurred, in the wild. So they are that closely related that they would view things that way. So I'm bringing this up because if Cooper's hawks are the coyote role, they're in the middle, and so they can punch up or punch down. They can hunt prey as large as a duck, as large as a pheasant, as large as a jackrabbit, but it's very difficult. But they can. Those are just easy things for any goshawk. But they can also go after the smallest sparrow, the smallest chickadee or finch, and do that. But they'll do that in between range of a quail, a dove, a pigeon. That fits them perfectly. But I was thinking about it, and I did that video on Cooper's hawks the other day and asking about different range, and I'm starting to get information back from people who saw that video. It's always been a known fact that Cooper's hawks in the eastern United States tend to be much larger, substantially larger than the ones up north and the ones here out west. But I never thought much about it. I just thought, they're bigger for some reason. Well, I was thinking about it in terms of the Coyote Principle, and I thought, if there are goshawks present and sharp-shinned hawks present, we would assume Cooper's hawks are going to take the middle role. But if goshawks numbers are low to non-existent in a region, we would assume Cooper's hawks would lean into their ancestry because they came from goshawks and would take larger prey. They'd fill that role that the absentee goshawks are not filling. There's no waste in nature. And I thought, I got to look at a range map. I haven't thought about that for a while. So I was looking at range maps of Canada and the United States of where we find Cooper's hawks and goshawks. And in the West, the range of a northern goshawk comes way down because of the Rocky Mountains, like where I live. But in the East, you do have forests. But the goshawk range doesn't dip down in the East like it does in the West. Cooper's hawks have filled in that range just fine. But goshawks, it's kind of hit and miss. They're not as common, or in some areas non-existent at all. So it makes entire sense that in those areas, Cooper's hawks are filling in the gap. They're filling the role of a goshawk or competing for that role and largely filling it with goshawks being more scarce. And so as such, if you are leaning into your larger ancestry hunting larger prey, it would make sense that natural selection favors larger birds, passing on larger bird genetics. And it's everybody I've talked to so far, the states they have mentioned, the range map matches up. If they're reporting giant Cooper's hawks they've seen and flown back east, and then I look at the map of their state and it's like, oh, goshawks aren't there at all, or rarely there, rarely seen. They're very scarce, maybe just a migrant. They don't even breed in that state. It's like, okay, this makes sense. And all the states that people are reporting much smaller Cooper's hawks that they have flown, all are states that have goshawks in them. So again, that is the Coyote Principle. I love, and I wish we would share this principle more because I love that wolf, coyote, fox parallels so many ways Goss, Cooper, Sharp-shinned. From everything from there, the absolute most adaptable canine in the New World is a coyote. Absolutely. They're more able to adapt to human urban environments. And it is the same thing, canine world. I might have just said that wrong. Coyotes are able to adapt better. Cooper's hawks are able to adapt better. Handle human and urbanization. From nesting in the city to, having a den in the city. It's the same thing. It's parallels. It works. And so it's a good model to compare, even though mammals and birds are very different. So anyways, some interesting thoughts I wanted to share that I had tonight. I hope you enjoyed them and found them interesting. And again, please share your experiences, your observations, both on coyotes and on Cooper's hawks, because I think it's fantastic to kind of collaborate and understand the best we can. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe. And as always, happy hawking.